So today we're going to be making ceviche with grouper and scallops. What we're going to be adding to that is some fresh pineapple, fresh orange, a bit of Jicama root, which is a Mexican tuber root that you peel and cut into chunks or sticks or whatever, and it's sort of known as the Mexican potato. After you can keep it like this in a cool, dry place for quite some time, but after you peel it and cut it, you need to refrigerate it. We're going to be adding that. Gives a little crunch to what we're making. We're going to have some small glory tomatoes that we're going to chop up and put in there, along with some cucumber. I'm going to do some green and red onions both, a little cilantro, a little hot pepper, and we're going to, of course, mix that with your typical ceviche mixture, which is going to be orange juice, lemon juice, and lime juice. And I've got two different kinds. I've got a key lime, which I really prefer, as well as an organic pure lime juice for the chemistry there. So that's what we're going to be adding. Once it's all done and it's all mixed together and it's fully cooked through, we're going to take it and we're going to put a couple of spoonfuls on each piece of Belgian Endive here, which will make a nice presentation on the plate. So that's the plan. We're going to garnish it with a little bit of fresh avocado as well. So that's what this is all about. We'll be making it right here, and then once we get it all prepared, we're going to let it soak for a few hours to get all cooked up, and then we'll come back and look at the presentation. Hi again, it's Sean, and we're cooking in my little tiny kitchen. This is where I do everything except what I put outside on the grill. Today we're going to be making ceviche, as I've mentioned. Talked about the ingredients already. We have the traditional lemon, lime, and orange juice combination that we're going to be mixing with some little glory tomatoes, a little bit of pineapple, some green and red onions, hot pepper, cilantro, the scallops, which are cold deep water scallops, as well as about a pound of fresh grouper that I got from the store today. So this will be all chopped up, mixed together, and when we're done with that, we're going to take scoops of it and we're going to put it on Belgian Endive. So we'll have a little boat filled with ceviche that we can serve either as appetizers or as a light main course for a lunch or something like that. It'll be fun. We'll garnish it with a little bit of avocado. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm going to wash my hands. Got a clean cutting board that I'm going to use for vegetables. I have another cutting board for the seafood products. Make sure we don't mix those together. So let's get started. So in the preparation for making the ceviche, this recipe calls for pretty much half of everything. It's going to be half of this Jicama root. It's going to be a half cup of lemon juice, a half cup of the lime juice, a half cup of the orange juice, and half an onion, half of a cucumber, and get it all mixed together. What I'm doing to the normal recipe is I'm going to be adding some pineapple, and you can add lots of different kinds of fruit to this if you want to. You could add fresh peaches, you could do sour green apples like Granny Smith apples. There's all different kinds of things you mix into this. One thing you've got to be aware of when you're making anything with a high acidity content is that the bowl that you use to soak it in, or whether you're going to use a big Ziploc bag, something like that, you want to make sure it is a non-reactive bowl. And a non-reactive bowl would be a glass bowl or a plastic bowl, ceramic bowl, something like that. What you don't want to do is use metal. If you've ever noticed, it's a good experiment. You can take a tomato, slice it open, wrap it in aluminum foil, put it in the fridge, come back and look at it the next day, and you'll see exactly why you don't want to mix high acid foods with metal. So as part of this, because we're going to use a lot of different juices, and we have tomatoes as well, we need to make sure that we use a nice bowl for that. In this case, I'm using a plastic bowl. I happen to like these OXO products. They're easy to clean. They have a no slip bottom, and this one has the measuring on the inside of it there that we can use to make sure we're not overdoing something on the juices, things like that. So why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll do actually, I tell you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this organic pure lime juice, fresh pressed, not from concentrate stuff. So we're going to put a half cup of this in there. get it all mixed up, because these organic ones tend to leave a lot of the pulp and stuff on the bottom. Pulp is fine for me as far as I'm concerned. I like having the pulp in there. I'm going to do a half cup of this. That gets us to a half cup. And we'll add that to the bowl. I'm going to do a half cup of lemon juice. And again, I'm cheating here. You know, I didn't want to spend half the day trying to go through and squeeze out a bunch of lemons and oranges and things like that to make this ceviche with. So I'm cheating. I'm gonna use fresh oranges in it when I'm gonna chop those up and put them in there. But for now, I'm gonna use the juice of from these the fresh juice from that's already done, as opposed to having to squeeze them all myself, as I do not have a juicer. Knocking things over today. Get that one out of the way, and we'll get down to the orange juice here. Gonna have a lot of juice left over in my house, but that's okay. Now I really like ceviche. I'm not a crazy weird sushi fan when it comes to things still kicking and screaming when they go in your mouth, and I'm not a big fan of really fishy fish products. So I tend to go for really fresh tuna, grouper, a lot of white fish that aren't, very fishy. Scallops have got to be very fresh for me. There's a lot of them that taste metallic already, or are a bit too fishy for me. But these are going to come out pretty good, I think. So we're going to go ahead and get that, start cutting that up and putting it in there. We're going to use some tomatoes. We're going to use, like I said, half of the cucumber, half of the jicama root. We're going to use some of the pineapple here. We've got a pepper that we're going to have to cut and take the seeds out of. It's going to be a little spicy, hopefully not too much. So let's get started with that. So we've got the juice mix over here going. In the meantime, I'm going to wash and peel, which you can't see, but there's a sink right over here. Wash and peel this the cucumber. Now I hopefully will not cut myself as I normally do with this peeler. It's probably safer for me to use a knife than to use the peeler, because I seem to always cut myself. God knows how or why I do, but I do. Go ahead and get that out of the way. Set that aside. Go ahead and cut that. Get the end off that. And I'm just going to go ahead and chop it up into sections that we will then dice. And I am not, one of these super professional knife chopper guys that can do 5,000 slices in 30 seconds. Some people go through and take the seeds out. I don't really care. I'm kind of lazy that way. They don't taste bad to me. They don't bother me. So, it's your choice. You can either take the stems out or not. I don't really have a passion one way or the other. And there's that. Get that one in there. Chop that one up some more. You can just chop willy-nilly here. Again, like I said, I'm no professional chopper, but we just want to get pretty small pieces together for this, so that because we're gonna scoop this later on, so you don't want giant chunks of any one particular thing. The biggest chunks I'm going to have are going to be the seafood, as opposed to anything else. I'll probably talk another time about knives. This is a very nice nakiri that a friend of mine got for me in Japan, and it's specifically for cutting vegetables. There are different kinds. There's right-handed nakiris and left-handed nakiris. It's obviously hand-beaten. It's a very nice older knife, or old blade knife. You got to take good care of it. It's no washing it in the sink. In the dishwasher. You got to be very careful about how you clean it. You have to oil the handle and all that, but it is a really nice knife for chopping vegetables. There's a lot of control with it. Apparently it's made by a guy who makes, swords and things like that. His family's been doing it for, I can't tell you how long. So what I've done here is I've obviously taken out the seeds of the pepper that we're going to use. I'm going to rinse it off real quick. A little tip and trick for you. And the reason I'm not using the same knife for the pepper as I am for the other vegetables that I'm going to be chopping is there's going to be the oil, the hot oil on there. And I want to keep that to a minimum instead of spreading it all around. Also, once you start chopping this, you don't want to rub your eyes, rub your mouth, go to the restroom if you're a man and hold your private bits. You know, be very careful. Wash your hands when you are done chopping up this pepper. I'm going to even rinse the board off when I'm done with a little bit of soap, not too much, but a little bit of soap to help counteract some of the oil that's going to be left from this pepper. You know, some people don't like things too hot. I think that the pepper, you know, I'm going for about half of what the recipe actually calls for. It calls for 2 jalapenos. I'm not putting that much in. I'm going to do obviously a lot less than that. I'm just going to do 1 little pepper here. And you can obviously change that if you want to, add a few more spices, take some things away. I'll chop it pretty fine, get it all cut up here. The other thing about peppers is sometimes you notice when you cut them that the interior white stuff is a bit yellow. That has to do with the heat of the peppers. You want to get rid of as much of the membrane inside as you can to reduce the amount of heat that you are going to have in your food. If you like a lot of food, keep as much membrane as you want. A lot of heat in your food. If you don't like the heat in your food or as much of it and you just want the flavor, see, look at that orange stuff right there is actually some of the oil that's coming off of that pepper. So again, if you want lots of heat, keep the membrane. If you want less heat, keep less of the membrane. Right, so now we've got a couple of oranges peeled here. I've got my half of my onion, which I will chop up, and some green onions, and clean my root off a bit. We'll start peeling that here in a second, and begin to add those ingredients to the mix. The last thing that'll go in will be some of the scallops and the grouper. So let's go ahead and get started. I mean, I am a fan of navel oranges, typically because they're really easy to peel. You can get most of the gook off pretty fast. They don't have a lot of seeds in them, if any, and you know, they're big and juicy. Other people have other preferences, but I like these. So I'm just going to segment these down and cut them into pieces, and we'll add those to the mix as well. So far, it's pretty much looking like we got a spicy sangria until we start putting the food in there, but get the oranges down into segments, and yeah. We're going to do 2 oranges, make a lot of segments. These are kind of big, but trying to chop any smaller than that. I mean, I can slice them thinner, but as far as making less thick, I'm not really going to be able to do it because they're already segmented. So some people I know are pretty anal attentive about it, and they'll go ahead and take the skins off as well. I don't particularly care to do that. Doesn't really matter to me. Again, it's kind of a nice crunchy, juicy thing we're making here, and we're going to have some other crunchy bits in there. But there's 1 orange. Let's do a couple of pineapple slices here. We'll cube up some pineapple. This, again, you can do pretty small. I got store-bought pineapple that was fresh cut, rather than try and sit there and do my own. It's kind of a pain to core and peel a pineapple, so I just went ahead and bought one that was already done. I'm lucky that I have a Harris Teeter grocery store. I'm not shilling for them specifically, but I have a Harris Teeter that is very close to my house, right down the street. And you know, they're a bit expensive. They're kind of like Publix for those of you in Florida. They're less expensive, I guess, than Whole Foods or Whole Paycheck, but they're not they're certainly more expensive than like a Safeway or, Winn-Dixie or something. So on to the other orange. Got a little pineapple in there now. We'll get this thing cleaned up. Section this out. Get it put in there. I decided to start doing these videotapes just to A, see how they turn out, and B, put something on YouTube, on Facebook and stuff like that for friends and family that were paying attention to what I was doing. And we'll see how they actually come out. That's a nice little chunk of orange there. One thing about this ceviche, I'm going to put it today, I'm going to put it on these Belgian Endive leaves. But another really great thing you can do, and I'll show in another episode later, is how you can make watermelon cups and then it's literally a piece of watermelon that is carved out like a cup. And then you put the ceviche inside that. You can make them small, you can make them big. They're really pretty and very summertimey, but not having a lot of luck getting good watermelon right now, even though you can pretty much get any fruit any season. They just, you can tell a big difference in the quality between when something is grown in season locally and when you bring it in from Chile or Argentina or whatever. And it's February here in Washington. It's about 30 degrees outside right now. We're having snow flurries and other rain and cold wind and blustery conditions. So I am not interested in getting a watermelon that's been shipped up here from South America somewhere. I'm going to just do this in this Belgian Endive. It'll be pretty and it'll taste good. Belgian Endive's got a little kick to it. It's got its own little special taste that I think will offset well with the ceviche. So here we've got our onion. Go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Now, one thing that I have not done in many years, and I suggest that you do it if you're going to do a lot of cooking, is find a place to take a local knife skills class. It's amazing, nobody thinks about it, but it's amazing how important good knife skills are in the kitchen. One, for safety. Two, because it just makes things go faster. It makes things cook better when you have properly cut something for size or shape, or because it's going to be added into something. Whoops, there we go. We'll just chop this up really good. It makes a big difference, and I think a lot of people just never think about how important proper knife skills are in the kitchen, and I'm not doing a very good job of showing those right now. Again, I get kind of lazy. I do a lot of cheating on stuff. I do have a food processor, which you'll be noticing that I'm not using here. I do use it for some other things, primarily to make sauces or mixes or whatever, or coleslaws, things like that. When we make egg rolls in another time, we'll use the food processor to make the coleslaw. So I'm just going to dump. I'm not going to dump all of them. I'm going to dump a good chunk of them in there. I just go ahead and do half an onion. That's a pretty big onion, pretty good sized onion there. So we'll go ahead and don't worry about the scrapings, the last little bits. Don't really care about those because I still have a green onion to put in. So I'll clean that board off and come back and get my green onions washed up. When you do things like cilantro, parsley, lettuce, that sort of stuff, it's really a good idea. You should wash everything, even those things that say that they're already washed. Triple wash for your protection, or whatever they say in the grocery store when you buy a bag of lettuce. I don't care what they say. The produce section of any grocery store, I don't care how clean they try to be or how clean they are, is just, you know, a petri dish of nastiness. If you look at, you know, you think of all the water that's dripping around and everything, you think of the air conditioning and, you know, stuff coming in and off trucks, and God knows what it was shipped like on the truck. I just think you need to wash everything. And then once you wash it, when you're doing leafy vegetables, it's good to have a lettuce spinner. Helps get it clean without mushing it all down. My mom used to take a dish towel and wrap everything up in the dish towel and then spin the dish towel, which ended up, you know, it worked. I mean, it was a field expedient method for actually cleaning, I mean, getting the lettuce dry, but the fact is it crushed the lettuce. It didn't do a real good job of keeping it fresh looking. Once you pulled it out of there, it was sort of a spun up, balled up mess. I'm just chopping these onions a little bit finer. There you go. And put some green onions in there. That'll be nice. That's in. And that's done. Rinse this off again. Rinse the board off again. And we're off to doing some tomatoes. And we'll do a little bit more pineapple as well. But let's get some tomatoes going again. These I'm just going to quarter. And doesn't matter how you care to do it. I mean, you know, some people do it like that. I don't. I just grab it and cut it however it is. Again, one of those things where it may very well be there's a secret way to do these tomatoes that when you put them in the ceviche, they gather a certain amount of flavor or whatever by being cut a certain way. There's my mother, who turned me on to this kind of knife actually, used to go to a school that taught macrobiotic cooking up in Connecticut or New Hampshire or somewhere up New England way, and part of the philosophy of that school was that the knife you used and how you specifically cut the food, whether it was across the grain, with the grain, at an angle or whatever, would release the energy in a certain way while it was cooking or as it was prepared, so that you got the best benefit. The knife helped give you the best benefit from the food. I'm not sure how true that is. You know, there's something to the chemistry of cooking different foods different ways, blanching, boiling, you know, not over boiling, roasting, you know, different methods to bring out the chemical composition and properties of foods. So there's something behind the theory, and I'm not sure the knife actually is part of the reason how that happens. But anyway, just so you know. Okay, so I've got some tomatoes chopped here. Again, got them quartered down. Not scooping out any of the seeds or membrane on the inside of that. We're just going to go ahead and add that to the bowl as is. Scrape the board again, get all this stuff off there. So these are really pretty little tomatoes. They're I guess they're called mini orange glories. They're mini orange glories, and so they've got a nice sort of orange look to them, and with a little bit of green in them there. They're ripe. They're fully ripe, and they've got a nice sweet flavor, but a good tang that hits you in the back of your throat. Really nice tomato. Anyway, so got some of those done. So let's do a little more pineapple, and then we'll do some jicama root and some cilantro, and then we're ready to put the meat in there. And then we'll just stick that in the refrigerator. Oh, it's about 3 in the afternoon, so we'll stick that in the refrigerator until probably about 6 or 7 o'clock tonight, and then it should be fully done, fully ready to go. And that'll be about the time that I'm ready to have some dinner. So a couple of good chunks of pineapple here. Get this cut up. There's a restaurant here in Washington, D.C., downtown, near sort of K Street and 14th Street, and it's called Lima. And Lima, sort of a weird joint. It's like a really nice restaurant upstairs, and then downstairs in the basement it has this crazy club, you know, with all the club music and all the electronica and the fancy people and their fancy clothes and all that sort of stuff there. But upstairs in the restaurant, they make ceviche that is about the best I've ever had, and it consistently wins different chef awards around DC at different restaurant competitions and things like that. It's really, really good. So let's clear this off. Here's another little tidbit I've learned. I use a lot of paper towels, and I know it's bad for the environment, but I'm always wiping things up. I'm always making a mess, and you know, trying to clean things up a little bit to keep the workstation clean. But what you can do with these is, it sounds silly, but you can actually put this in the recycling bin. You know, it's pretty much just water and a little bit of fruit juice. There's probably people out there going, no, 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 but it's actually okay to put that in the recycling bin. So I just make a little pile of all my paper towels, and at the end of it, when I'm done, I put them in the recycling bin. So I am going to now carve this bad boy in half. That's what it looks like. It's got a sticky, sappy outside to it, but the inside, not bad. So we'll go ahead and cut a bit of this off there, get it out of the way. And then I'm going to peel the rest of this thing. It's kind of like an apple when you peel it. It's a weird vegetable. We're just going to cube this. You can do it in sticks, you can grill it, you can eat it, you can fry it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this root. People do with it. I'm just going to cube it and put it right into the mixture. So we got there. That's pretty much done. So scrape off the stuff into the sink, which later on I will go back and collect. Oh, one thing I didn't mention when I was peeling the oranges earlier, my grandmother taught me this. It's an old trick. Your orange peel, once you're done with it, you know, you peel oranges, you can actually take this in its pieces and put this in your garbage disposal. This will help clean and freshen the garbage disposal without using harsh chemicals and things like that. So save your orange peels. Everything else I usually put into a separate bag, take outside and put in the yard somewhere. All the, you know, the other peelings, the extra pieces of fruit and stuff like that, I just leave it in the sink, collect it all, and put it into a bag, carry it outside, and dump it in the yard, back in the bushes. Get a little compost going back there. But this orange peel I keep, and I will use at the end of the day in my sink. So here's this root, right? We take it into big chunks. I will then cut it down from here into cubes. It's kind of a starchy thing, but that's all right. It's going to taste good with this. If you have trouble finding it, you may need to go to a Hispanic or Latin food store to find this. If you can't find it at your local Publix or Albertsons or Wegmans, Safeway, you know, whatever your grocery store is, you might have to go to a Hispanic food place to find it. Not expensive. Again, it's just a sort of a fibrous root. There you go. It's got a sweet taste to it. It's almost like an apple, but there's more sugar, got more of a sugar taste to it. It's kind of a mix between sugar cane and apple. So it's got a nice flavor to it. All right, that's getting there. A lot, it looks like a lot of stuff. So you can see we've got a big pile of stuff in there that we're going to end up mixing all together once we get the vegetables, the seafood in it. So I've got one more vegetable to do, and I'll tell you the secret with this cilantro. Now I've already washed this, rinsed it off, and got it all cleaned up here. I'm going to just use a pair of scissors. Rather than try and chop it, I'm just going to take a pair of scissors, big kitchen shears, and I'm going to gather this bunch in my hand. I do the same thing with parsley. I'm just going to gather this bunch in my hand, and I'm just going to cut it right into this. Let me scoot this over a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. The world's smallest kitchen workspace. Send this show to Japan and show people in Japan what they can do in a Japanese-sized kitchen. Hopefully there'll be somebody from Japan watching this someday if I get it on YouTube. Anyway, see, we just start chopping away at this. And, you know, if you get a decent bunch of cilantro or parsley or curly parsley or anything else you want to use, it's got lots of leaves, and then we'll get down to the stems and we'll stop chopping when we get down to the stems. But sometimes you just find really horrible stuff like this. And if that's the case, if you can't get decent parsley or cilantro or whatever, there's actually a couple of brands out there that make a freeze-dried version, which is much better than just plain dried. It's a lot fresher, seems to last longer to me, and I'll tell you what the name brand of that is. But anyway, here we go. We've got our cilantro going there. Seems to be pretty good shape. Clean that off, and voila. So there's some cilantro for us, all chopped up and ready to go. So that's that. Let's set that aside. We'll come back in a minute and do the seafood. Okay, so here we have the grouper, and you know, it's really your choice as to what kind of fish or what kind of seafood actually that you'd like to put into a ceviche. You can do calamari, you can do shrimp, you can do scallops, you can do pretty much any kind of fish. As I think I've mentioned before, prefer white flaky fish that don't have a very strong fish taste to them. I like fresh scallops. So I went out and got a piece of grouper here that was fresh this morning, and I'm going to cut this into pieces as well, and small cubes. And I'm going to do the same thing with a good chunk of the scallops, not all of them, but most of the scallops. I'm going to do a few scallops slightly larger because I'm going to take those out and grill those on the grill with some bacon after they have a little marinade in the ceviche sauce, ceviche liquid. So let's go ahead and we're just going to cut this down. This is a decent sized piece of fish here, as you can see. Tuna works well for this, but it's a decent size. This is about a pound, I think, about a pound of, maybe even less than that, of grouper. But I'm going to just start with one section here and just cut this into chunks. Cut it down a little bit more there. And again, there's probably somebody out there watching this that thinks my knife skills are absolute crap, and they're right. That's fine. I don't care to have the comments. I'm sure I'll get them anyway. But let's go ahead and get this one done. So, cut this off into chunks. And a nice piece of fish. It should, I think, to me, fish like this should have no smell. When you get it, it should smell like the ocean or salt air. It should be very fresh. It shouldn't have any sort of fishy or metallic odor to it. Some more oily fishes will have a different smell. Mackerel has a smell to it. Salmon obviously has a scent to it, and that's okay. But typically, white fish should not have any smell to it. Cut this down again, another section. And notice I'm not using my vegetable knife for this. I'm using a different knife. Probably could use a sharpening, but I do have a filleting knife somewhere
God knows where. But just cut this into pieces. And I'll come back in a minute and we'll carry on. Right, so I'm down to the last couple of pieces here of the grouper. Get that cut up. And then I'm going to get these scallops cut up. And as I mentioned, I'm going to save a couple of them, probably a little bit bigger cuts. All right, so these are really, really soft. These are going to be really nice. I think that's probably a decent size. And yeah, it's nice looking. Look at that. This, I guess it was back in the summertime. I went to a friend of mine's house in Pennsylvania, and he has a really great kitchen. And he was having some friends over besides myself, and he asked if we wanted to go out and do the food. And I said, yeah, of course, absolutely. So it's right about the time when ramps are in season. I don't know if you've ever had ramps or not, but ramps are only available about 2 weeks in the spring. They're a mix between like a small garlic flavored spring green onion kind of thing, little bulb, green parts, but sort of leafy at the end, as opposed to green like a, as opposed to being tubular like a green onion like this here. It's sort of got a bulb at the bottom, and then it comes up and it has some leaves, and it's got this oniony, garlicky flavor to it. And they're like literally 2 weeks available in the spring, and that's it. And typically in the Virginia, North Carolina area as well. So I'm up in Pennsylvania, and we find some really nice scallops. I mean, like twice as big as this, right? And we find these ramps. So bacon fat, sauteed the ramps in some bacon fat, got them cooked through. Then I took the scallops and I sauteed them in some butter and bacon fat, sprinkled a little bit of cayenne on them, and then put the ramps with that. So we had these sauteed ramp and bacon fat pan-seared scallops. It was really, really fantastic. I'm just going to do these in half, these bigger ones, that we're going to wrap in the bacon later, just so we can separate out the size of these things from the smaller pieces I've already cut. After it's marinated, we can just use these and we'll do them with the bacon. So let's got those leftover bits here. I'm going to feed that to the cat. I think the cat will like that. So we'll come back in just a minute. I will mix up all of this stuff together here. We'll go ahead and put that in the refrigerator and let it sit for a while, and then we'll get on to something else. So I had to move to a bigger bowl. I was overzealous in my chopping, and so we've got more stuff than we actually prepared for in the other bowl. But I'm going to go ahead and mix this all together. I'm going to use a couple of wooden spoons here. Again, trying to reduce the amount of metal that comes in contact with all this. We can see we've got great colors in here. Greens and yellows and the whites and reds and everything. So we're getting there with this. We got that hot pepper in there. Got all the juice in there. It's all doing well. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to add some more equal parts lemon, lime, and orange juice to this to try and fill it up to the level that I have my vegetables in here, and that way it just keeps the seafood covered well. And we'll get started with that real quick here. Again, it's basically a half cup of each that goes into this. Now you can add, and I do on occasion add other things to it. You can add tequila to it. You can add triple sec, drambuie, different kinds of things to add a little bit of flavor to it. You know, tequila is great. I love the taste of tequila, but something about it, and I don't care what kind of tequila it is. Really good stuff, really cheap stuff, doesn't seem to matter to me. All tequila hurts my stomach, every bit of it. And it's really sad because I like the taste, I like the flavor of it, I like the taste of it. I like it in food, but something about it. So now we've got this set up here. Let's get this mixed up a little bit more. Okay. Seems like all the food and things are, all the seafood is in there and well mixed in together with everything else. Pretty good level of cover on it. We'll push those bits and pieces down a little bit. So it's starting to do its thing. Now, if I was really smart, I'd have a giant 3-gallon Ziploc bag that all this would be in, take all the air out of it and let it go. But here's where we are. Now at this point, I'm going to add just a dash of cayenne pepper to it, and then we'll let it sit. Probably needs a little garlic. What do you think? Probably ought to put a little garlic in there as well. Okay, so now we've got a little dash of garlic, a dash of cayenne in there. I'm going to blend all that up, and then I'm going to put in the last of the juice. Just raise that level just a little bit more, and then I'm going to put the scallops that we're going to use for the grill in there as well. Get those down, cooked down a good bit, and we should be all set. All right. One last half cup of lime juice. One last half cup of lemon juice. And the cool thing about this is there's a lot of recipes where you have to alter the amounts of liquids and spices when you make larger portions. In other words, you can't just have for one mix where it calls for a half a cup and you want to double the recipe, you may not actually need a full cup of whatever it is you were doubling. You might only need 3/4 of a cup. It gets complicated. In this case, in making something like this that's going to be a marinade, essentially you can just double everything. And then, what we're going to do when we go to actually eat this, we're going to scoop it out with a slotted spoon, and that's going to take away a good chunk of a good bit of the liquid that we would normally have. And as I said before, we're going to take this and we're going to put it on these Belgian Endive pieces and make these nice little boats of ceviche goodness. So in the middle goes the other pieces. We will find those again when it comes time to pull this out and grill it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some saran wrap and I'm going to put it down into this. I'm going to cover this, but rather than just cover it on top, I'm actually going to push the saran wrap down onto the top of this to keep out as much air as possible. So as the chemicals do their thing, it's not exposed to the air. So once we'll get that done, we'll put that in the refrigerator, and we'll come back in a couple hours and see how it is. Thanks. Okay, so Sean here again today, and earlier we were working on the ceviche with grouper and scallops. We've got that finished up now, and I'm going to plate them with a little bit of, as I'd said before, Belgian Endive. So I've got the Belgian Endive cleaned, arranged, and the ceviche's done. Went longer than normal, but because I had premixed the fruit and the ceviche together premixed the fruit with the seafood together and added the liquid to it, I wanted to go ahead and let it cook a little longer. It sort of melds all the flavors to me as opposed to just having the seafood into the lemon, lime, and orange juice mix by itself. I went ahead and sort of mixed everything together, which to me gives the flavor of the parsley and the cilantro and the red onions and the green onions and the pineapple and the oranges and all that kind of mixes it all together. So I've got this big bowl ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and plate that now. So we'll take a look at it and see what you think. Okay, so in addition to the ceviche that's going to be put on the Belgian Endive like I had described, we also had cut up, if you remember yesterday, some of the scallops. We went ahead and soaked them in the ceviche liquid to cook them, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add them to some bacon that will bacon wrap these, and then we'll go ahead and put those outside on the grill. So I've pulled those out of the mixture separate there. You can see it's about a half a scallop each. And then I've got this set aside with the ceviche. So let's go ahead and kind of arrange this here. Probably a better idea to have arranged after I filled them, but what we'll do is just go ahead and take each of these, put a bunch of the ceviche mix inside them, as you can see. I've drained out a lot of the liquid, so it's not quite as, doesn't quite have as much as it did previously, but it's still got a good bit. So this is going to be really nice here. See, it's got a great yellow and orange, a little bit of red in it. Good pieces of scallop and grouper there. So this is a great appetizer, something that can be made ahead of time, well ahead of time, and put aside for when your guests arrive. And you just go ahead and put it in these little Belgian Endives and serve it up. You can even sprinkle it with a little bit of paprika or cayenne pepper or things like that that you'd like to, if you want it a little spicier. Again, we put in a pepper. If you'll recall, we put in an orange sort of jalapeno pepper, and that's going to give it some spice. But this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And you'll have plenty. If you make it in the amount that we made it in, you'll have plenty of leftovers to serve. You can even make this. This makes a really nice. You know, if you do an omelet for breakfast, you could take this ceviche and you could mix it in with the omelet when you get ready to fold the eggs over. You can mix this in there with it. It makes a really nice breakfast omelet, believe it or not. Something interesting and different. People be like, had no idea you could do that. Well, that's a nice little idea there. And so there you see, we've got these little ceviche boats made up. Get that one filled up a little bit there with some stuff. There. So we just kind of rearrange it just a hair, make it all fit in pretty. That one's kind of tilted. There we go. And there you have it. A little nice little ceviche appetizer for people. So let's get on with doing the next. We'll do the bacon wrapped scallops, ceviche scallops that we'll grill. So let me move all this out of the way, wash my hands a bit, and we'll get started on that one.